think I just made my first clickbait. Hello guys, my name is Janne. I'm your designer friend from Finland. Nice to see you here. Today we're going to talk about the perfect web design process. Of course, there's no such thing as perfection, but I feel like with a little bit of planning, we can get quite close. And the point of this video is to find the perfect process for you. I have a big list of action items, tools that one can use in the design process. We're going to go through it and you can pick the best things for your process. Before we start, I have to say that I'm not a rockstar web designer, at least yet. But I have made my master's thesis about web design process, so I should know some things about this topic. Okay, that's enough for the intro. Here is the actual list. This is a Figma file, link is down below. And first we're gonna go through the phases. So I have divided this process to 6 phases, and the first one is of course the sales phase. You gotta sell something before you can do something. Then there's discovery phase. The phase where you ask a lot of questions, following the design phase, the phase where you do the actual design work, development where you build the website you have designed, publishing. Many people might not say that this is an actual phase, but I like to say so because it is an important part of the process. It might not be the longest phase, but there's a lot of stuff you can do and you should do in this section. And then, of course, there's lastly the maintenance phase. There's all sorts of things, but this phase also includes the additional services you might take or make after the publishing. Let's zoom into the sales phase. Here are some cold tactics, and then there's some tactics related to inbound marketing. You can, of course, make cold calls, cold emails, even videos, or visit the location. The thing is that people usually don't know that you're calling or emailing and they don't want to be sold to. So you should have some kind of hook or provide some kind of value to get the conversation going. At some point I tried to make these videos. I searched for the companies that could use my services and then sent them videos about how I could make their website better. This really didn't catch on for me, but I didn't try it that hard too, so that might be an interesting thing to do. But the thing I do nowadays, or I try to do at least, is content marketing and SEO. So these are the building blocks of inbound marketing. Basic idea is that you do some kind of helpful content, you get ranked on Google, and when people need your services, you are already known. Helpful content can be, of course, blogs and videos. Search engine optimization, of course, includes a lot of other stuff. And these things also are related to lead magnets, stuff that you use to get leads, or at least email, newsletter, subscribers, and that sort of things. Then there's this whole world of social media and social media marketing. You can make actual content to the social media and try to get seen organically, but you can of course put money into those platforms too. References from past customers. This is the thing I could do more. This can be as simple as asking for some recommendations about new contacts. So let's imagine that you have a client that is happy with the solution you gave them. Then you can ask if he or she knows someone else that would benefit from the same solution. Down on the list, there's of course networking. You can do this online or offline. I myself am a member of few local groups. I find them quite enjoyable, even though that I really haven't got that many clients from those groups. Nevertheless, you can always learn things from other people and who knows, maybe even find a friend. Outsourced sales. So there are companies that actually make the sales calls for you. So you don't have to do anything like that. You probably have to go to the sales meeting and close the deal. So this could be beneficial for some sort of specialized agency that need to sell but don't want to hire actual sales staff for them. Moving on. Subcontractor work. So if you're a freelancer, it might be a good idea to contact some agencies and see if they need help with some projects. That is actually a thing I've been meaning to do, but I haven't done it. And finally, platforms, online platforms like Fiverr and Upwork. You know this. I really haven't tried them, so I'm not gonna comment on them. Next on the list is this dividing line. And this line divides the actual sales process. So let's say that we have started the conversation. What do we do next? We probably need some kind of sales meeting. You wanna explain the services you are making. Then you can make a cool offer. Let's say you make a PDF, maybe even a website, a video or something like that. This is a part where you should differentiate yourself or show your expertise. Not like do anything for free. The client should get a feeling that you're somehow different. Then there's callback. If the client doesn't answer to your cool offer, you should call back and ask, what's up? How is it? Do you need to talk about something, and so on. Then when you have agreed on the terms, you can send the contract and of course sign the contract and send the first bill. Of course, there could be some sort of down payment or scheduling fee if the actual start is way down the line somewhere in the future. But before you forget about this new project, you should of course put it in your calendar. And that sums up the sales phase. Discovery phase. This is an important phase, of course. In my process, it blends up quite well with the design phase, but there's a clear distinguishing factor. When in discovery phase, you ask the questions, try to get the info, and in design phase, you actually use that information to build something beautiful or design something beautiful. The discovery phase starts usually with a kickoff meeting or workshop. That might take even a full workday in some cases. I usually have a 3-hour workshop or something like that in my process, and I try to do these following things. First of all, I try to set goals and get the clients to say what they are expecting of this project. This of course relates to the determining the scope of the project. You can think of this as in page count or complexity, technical stuff, integration, so on. I usually try to say that we're not going to build a web application. These are the boundaries of the projects, and if these lines have to be crossed, we're going to talk about them further down the line and put some kind of price tag on them. Going on, then scheduling. The biggest thing is of course the deadline, the publishing date. Even if the deadline is not that hard, it's good idea to have some sort of goal in the calendar, but also weekly meetings and such. Project group definition. Well, in the smaller clients, it's usually the entrepreneur or the marketing manager. But if there is a bigger group, bigger team, it would be nice to know that in the beginning of the project. Deciding on communication, where the messaging takes place and how do you meet and so on. Pretty basic stuff, but if they are not said aloud or discussed, that might result in some sort of complication. Getting to know the client's business. So these are the basic questions. What do you do? How do you do it? Why you do it? What should I know about your business? And so on. The same thing goes with the industry. Some industries have some sort of usual ways of dealing with stuff or requests and quotes and that sort of things. You could take this as far as building a business model canvas for the clients. Business model canvas is a beautiful tool for thinking about the business model. It has been designed by this awesome agency called Strategizer. You should definitely look that up. Then there's competitive analysis. competitive. Okay, moving on. Customers' preferences. You should ask what they like, what they don't like, what's a definite no-no, and so on. Necessary materials, what you promise to deliver, what the client needs to deliver, and so on. Examples and inspiration. Many designers use this to get the conversation started. So they would show some sort of websites or maybe Pinterest boards. Benchmarking. This is a tool too. At minimum, you should check out the main competitors' pages and pick up the good stuff, but not in a way that you're cloning the sites. You know what I mean. Getting to know the users. This is like the clients, the actual users of the website. One way to do this is use user interviews, meaning like actually talking with your clients' customers, and then creating customer personas. This is one of my favorite tools. This is a way to relate to the end user, and I like them a lot. I'm gonna probably make a video about this someday soon. But you can go even further and create customer journeys, even to every specific persona you have created. This is a great way to model how the customer becomes an actual customer and what happens next. Few last things in this phase. Definition or review of visual identity. If the company has already some sort of brand, you should know about it. If they don't, you should somehow define it. And the same goes with the communication style. Moving on to the design phase. If you happen to be a designer, this is of course the thing where you shine. There are a few things in here too. Firstly, there's keyword research. That is not so creative, but I feel that it's important. If you're designing a website, you should know on what keywords it should rank. Then there's mapping existing content. Clients might have old websites and old content, blog posts, for example, and they should be imported to the new site. Sitemap or creation of sitemap. This can be done in numerous ways. You can just build a list of the sites. You can do some sort of visual representation where some pages are higher than others and so on. Wireframes. I actually like doing wireframes. If the sitemap is the overarching bigger map of the site structure, wireframes are the map of specific pages. For example, here's a homepage where there's a heroes section, a services section, some sort of info section, and contact section, and footer, and so on. Usually wireframes don't include the actual style. They are boring gray. They visualize the structure of the page and the sections. Then there's color selection, typeface selection. There's probably great videos in the internet about those. Creating other visual elements. If you use some sort of shapes or logos, you might want to define them too. And then there's creating a style guide or system in a design software. So in Figma, you probably should have some sort of system that you can utilize when creating the web design. So if there's some parts you end up using a lot, you probably should have some sort of symbols or components for those. Visual design of the home page. So I usually like to start with the home page. It is usually the most important page. And this is just the design, not HTML or CSS. We're in the design phase now. And then there's visual design of the other pages. In my process, I usually include content creation in these parts. It would be great if you already had the content, the text, and even the images in this point. Then there's designing for screen sizes. I usually start with the desktop and then make some modifications or versions for mobile. I usually don't do the other sizes in between, like tablet and such. Navigation design, this could be a bit higher up on the list. maybe. There's a lot that goes into it. Of course, there's the desktop version and the mobile version. Copywriting, so writing the actual content. You might even have some sort of copywriter working with you. This is a tough thing with the smaller clients because they usually don't want to pay for the writing stuff. They might do the texts by themselves, and in some projects, some websites, it really shows. Prototyping. So if you're working in Figma, you can make an actual prototype and test it out. Confirmation from the developer. So if you are not the developer who's going to build this site, you probably should say something like, it's coming to you, watch out. And of course, confirmation from the client that we may proceed to the development phase. This is of course a communicational thing. It might seem a bit obvious, but when you have this big of a list, you should have some guidelines and some obvious things helping you to get everything done. Development. Of course, contents of this phase depend on how you're going to develop the site. Are you using WordPress or are you making some sort of static website? You might know that I'm a Webflow user, but these things that I've put into this phase, this list, they are quite general. So let's go. Of course, if you and the developer are not the same person, you probably should have some sort of meeting. Then there's platform selection. Well, you probably have made the decision beforehand. This might be a item for the sales phase even. Then there's selection of other tools like plugins and such. Setting up a development environment. If you're in the Webflow world, you just create a new project. If you're in the WordPress side, you probably should have some sort of server or web hosting for this. Then there's creating repeating elements like navigation and such. Well, I would probably start by creating the home page and build these things alongside. But I find that when I have done the home page, I usually have quite many elements that I can build the other pages with. Creating CMS features like blog, references, maybe some employee stuff, and creating interactions, so hover effects, other sorts of effects. Again, you might do this alongside the other stuff. Image optimization, you should at least compress the images and use the right size. Then there's importing old content. So if there is an old blog, old text or images, you should import. Editing different screen sizes. I usually do this on a page-to-page level. So I will check if the page works in other screen sizes. And then if it's good, I'm able to clone it, copy it, and use it as a template for other pages. Installing a cookie consent system. Yeah, I live in Finland, which is a part of EU, so we have a quite robust regulation about these things. And installing analytics tools, so Google Analytics, Metapixel and such. Well, that went fast. That was the development phase. And next up, publishing. As I said, some might not feel that publishing is an actual phase in the process, but I like to say so. It starts with the content check and proofreading. So you see that the publishing phase, of course, includes these sort of final touches in the process. Then the site map creation. This means the actual technical XML file. Creating a backup. Well, if you don't have a backup at this point, that's weird. Accessibility check. So you should run some sort of audit. Same thing with performance, something like Lighthouse or such. General usability check. Well, I do this by myself. I just browse the site and see if everything checks. SEO check. Well, there's a section for this in Lighthouse too, but there's probably quite a few other things you could do. Client confirmation before launch. This is a good practice. So you just ask that, are we ready? Are you good with the launch? Should we go live? Redirects. If there was an old website, there's probably some pages that need to be redirected. Buying necessary subscriptions. This means web hosting or, for example, Webflow subscription. Buying a domain and linking it. Well, you might already have the domain. This is the first thing you buy when you think of some sort of business idea. Transferring files. Well, in Webflow world, you don't need to transfer any files. This relates to the old way of using a completely separate development environment and then moving the files to the actual web hosting location. Publication. This is the big thing, push of a button and so on. Post-release testing. So you will check if everything works on the actual domain. Forum tests, so you probably have some sort of forums on your site and you should test those that they work. Google Search Console verification. Now you're able to do the verification, and then there's creating the documentation. Documentation just means the actual guides and tutorials how to use the site and how it is built. Then there's the last phase, the maintenance phase. Firstly, there's a few things that don't fit in the publishing phase. There's a website walkthrough with client. You can show how the client can update the sites by themselves. Of course, this can include the celebration with the client. Final updates. It's a funny thing. There's probably always something that needs to be updated after the publishing, and it's normal. Maybe it even should be so. It's always good if the client wants to update the site regularly. And then there's this asking for a referral. This is a big thing. You should do this at least when you know that the client is happy with your solution. You can ask for some contacts, like, do you know anyone who could use the same kind of website refresh, and so on. And then again, there's a divider, and the things below the divider are more like additional services you can give or sell. There's of course technical updates, which can mean different things. In WordPress world, there's always something to update, plugins, the core, themes, and so on. Yearly checks, so let's check out the site. Is there anything that needs to be updated? Monitoring of visitor data, so just looking at the analytics. Search engine optimization, there's whole service category or industry behind this. Conversion optimization, so this is basically A/B testing and making the website sell more. So you just test different versions of specific pages and see what works better. Content production or creation, you can write blog posts and so on. Search engine advertising, Google Ads, of course. Social media content production, again, creation would probably be a better word. And then there's the social media advertising. And lastly, there's email marketing too. So a lot of advertising marketing stuff in the additional services. I find that these are quite good ways to continue the relationship and produce some value for the customer. So this has been the list. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully there's something new for you in the list. Again, you can get this from the link below, and let me know if I missed something, if there's something that should be added to the list. I try to keep this updated, but I won't make any promises. So that was basically it. Like, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.